Hi everyone, it's Kayvon with Ascari Art. So now we're ready to paint. Finally, we got all our supplies, we got all our colors, we got the palette knife, we got the resin, we're ready to go. So we're gonna do one of those traditional, the ocean paintings that you see where you got the dark blue and then you got the phthalo green and then it meets the sand and you got waves in it. That's what we're gonna do with the resin. So you've already prepped your canvas, the canvas is ready to go. So I'm gonna pick my color palette, which is the blue, the phthalo green, the blue, and the titanium white. That's what we're gonna use. So I'm gonna show you how to mix this up right now. Let's do it. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna mix my paint on. It's just a little palette that I got from Michael's. You can get a piece of plastic, you can use wood. Wood just absorbs the paint, so you maybe wanna seal the wood with something. But this will work. You can get these for $1 or $2. I'll have it listed in my little Amazon site. But so we're gonna mix, let's mix our white first. So I'm gonna use some of this Floetrol. We're gonna pour this out, okay? As you can see there, and then I'm gonna grab my titanium white, mix just a little bit. You don't need a lot. It's probably quarter size or just a little bit. You don't need too much, because if you mix too much pigment into Floetrol, it'll start doing some weird stuff when you start mixing it into the resin. So what I'm doing here is I'm just gonna squish it down and just keep working it through the Floetrol. The plastic cups that I was referring you to, these little guys right here, and I'm gonna actually pour this white into that cup. So this gets a little tricky with the palette knife. So we're just gonna scoop it up here and drop it in. Or actually, let's do the green, phthalo green. I'm not gonna use a lot of green, I'm just gonna use a little bit. It's like dime sized. Blue's right here. Okay, we're gonna put a little blue. Okay, it's not a lot. As you can see, it's just a small little dot. Small, maybe dime sized. Because resin doesn't require a lot of, you don't need a lot of pigment. It spreads, Floetrol helps spread that pigment as well. Okay, so now onto the canvas. So we've got our colors mixed with Floetrol, and they're sitting in the cups right here. And now what we need to do is make sure that this canvas is flat and leveled. So what I typically do is I know that my table is leveled. I've had my table leveled before. It's actually a pool table. So I just cover it with a whole bunch of stuff, plastic. And then the other thing that I have is I just flip these used cups that I've had in the past that I've used for other resin projects. And then I just place this gently on top of the cups, and that's what I do. So I typically, if it's a bigger piece, then I typically use a level and I'll put it on there and make sure that it's level horizontally and vertically, and then we go from there. So let's get started. I'm gonna show you how to mix the resin. Okay, so I've got my resin right here. I've got part A, and I've got part B. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix this. We're gonna do equal parts. What that means is if you're gonna mix, if you need a total of 10 ounces, you're gonna use 5 ounces of A and 5 ounces of B. If you want, 25 ounces, then you're gonna have to do the math. So 12.5 ounces and 12.5, and just use your eye. So you wanna make sure you get some of these cups. I may have mentioned this, may have not. You need some kind of measuring cup. Plastic would probably be best. I typically buy these plastic cups from Dollar General. If you don't have a Dollar General, then you can buy them online, or you can buy them at a local hardware store, or even a grocery store like a Walmart or any other grocery store. So what we're gonna do is, this is what's gonna help us right here, all the measurements. So I know for a 16 by 20, you need roughly about 10 ounces, okay? So in order to find out how many ounces of resin you need for your surface, you can go to just in Google, just search resin surface calculator, and you just put in your surface based on what kind of standard or metric measurements, and it'll tell you roughly how many ounces you need. I just have a list that I've made over the years because it gets pretty close to how much you need, but I typically add a little bit or take off depending on what I'm working with and if I want to do multiple coats while it's drying. So, but for this purpose, we're going to do about 10 ounces and we're going to mix equal parts, but I got to put my mask on because safety first. So make sure you got your mask and make sure you got your gloves. All right, let's do it. All right, we're ready. So I don't know if you can hear me, but we're just going to mix. We're going to mix 10 ounces. So the chemical reaction has started, but it's not mixed completely because part B is much lighter than part A. So we're going to mix it really slow. Make sure you don't get a lot of air bubbles in it. And you notice that it starts getting more and more clear, you see? All right, so we just got our resin. Our resin is done, it's right here. We're gonna get rid of this stick. We don't need this anymore. And now we're gonna start mixing our colors, the resin into our colors. So what I like to do is, I don't like to mix the resin into the full cup of color. I will get another cup and I will just pour the white in it. And I will mix the resin in that cup so that if I run out of color, if I run out of resin, I can always add more resin to this and use it again. So remember those popsicle sticks? You're going to use those popsicle sticks to mix these colors in really well. So I'm going to mix these colors really well. Make sure that the resin just absorbs the color. I'm going to pour the blue here. This is the deep side of the water. And then it's going to get to this green. And then we're going to add the waves throughout. All right? Do it this way, where we're just going to pour some, these are the crests of the waves, let's say. You do that, and then you can do that here. So you see, now I'm going to use the heat gun, and what we're going to do is we're just going to work this down. Just work through it. We're just going to get it to where we like it. So, and then we're going to move on to the next layer. There it is, everyone. So let me bring the camera over here. So that's pretty much it. Hello, everyone. So I just let this thing dry overnight, and we're gonna have to do 2 layers, like I mentioned earlier, maybe 3, depending on how it turns out and how I like it. So right now it's got a really nice fine shine to it. I've got a good base layer of where the blue starts and the green and of the waves. Now, what you can do to accelerate this process, so you don't have to do as many layers, is you can take your blue and you can actually paint on the canvas the deep blue as a base, and then you can do the green where it'll start, and you can mix the oils without the resin, just like paint it with a brush, and then paint your sand here. And then what you do is then once you pour the resin, there's a little bit more depth to it. And this is pretty much as an example here. This is something this was one of my early pieces. And there is like a dark blue paint under base on it, and then there's that green. But this is 2 layers anyway. But you see how it has a little bit more depth. You can see the depth of the white and the blue. And the sand example was this. I was just playing with this to show you. You've got this light sand that's resin, but the base was actually painted. And then I went in and then poured clear resin on top of it. And then I did this caramel color as well with resin. And I went on top of that. This is where the sand, when sand gets wet, it gets darker. So this was like that example. And then you've got the crests of the waves coming through. This was a very early example just to kind of show you some of the tests. I mean, it's trial and error. So you have to keep trying and keep, experimenting. You may get it on the first try. You may not. And it's okay. You can always just keep going over it. Resin's not cheap, but you learn from it, and it's an experience, and you may come out with a really nice piece. So right now, I'm going to just put this aside for now, and if everyone wants, I can do the layers again on top of this to see what the outcome is, and we can discover this together. Well, hit me up on a comment. Let me know if you want me to do that, and I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll start the second layer and the third layer on this to kind of show you what this evolves to. But hit me up on a comment, subscribe. I really appreciate it. All the support I can get just helps through, just helps me, pushes me, and I really appreciate everyone. Thank you.